Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. We've read a few letters recently from Nichiren to Shijo Kingo, the samurai, the martial artist, and well practiced in medicines, a doctor, you would call him, of that time. And we know about the drama of the other samurai accusing him of things at a debate, bad behavior, and so forth. And they're always trying to uh, get him demoted or get him to lose his lands, get him to lose his position and his favor with Lord Emma, his master, the master of this samurai. And because mostly they're antagonized because Shijo Kingo is such a adamant follower of Nichiren's doctrine of the Lotus Sutra. And of course, they're mostly Nembutsu chanting Amida Buddha's name, a strange offshoot sect that traditionally has long roots in Japan at the time. And so, I mean, just to restate what we already know, Lord Emma asked Shijo Kingo to write I still don't remember what he's called it, but basically a public letter stating that he no longer follows Nichiren or adheres to his doctrine, which Shijo Kingo would not do. And we read letter from Nichiren to Shijo about, and actually the letter composed for Shijo Kingo sent to Nichiren to sign, to help edit, whatever. But as we also know, during this time period, Nichiren was suffering with persistent diarrhea. It was very sickly, dysentery basically is what he was dealing with. And Shijo Kingo had sent him all kinds of medicaments that finally alleviated that problem. And I guess we'll talk about that in this letter, but more to the point, Nichiren will address the fact that, and we read that just recently, that Lord Emma, since Shijo Kingo had brought him through a terrible illness, there was an epidemic going on in Japan at the time, and Lord Emma was so thankful that he forgot all about the baloney that was coming from the other samurai, realized that it was all fake, and more to this point is that after Shijo Kingo healed Lord Emma from his terrible sickness, Lord Emma was so appreciative of Shijo Kingo that he promoted him all the more as his personal, not errant, but anyway, in his service, and gave him a parcel of land 3 times what he had previously had. So Shijo Kingo was very much in Lord Emma's favor. And Nichiren takes the opportunity not only to demonstrate his appreciation for what Shijo Kingo is achieving, but also as a caution that you should be more vigilant than ever now, because these people that are trying to strike you down and talk behind your back, they're going to be 10 times more jealous now. So you need to watch yourself closely. After all, this is a government and an establishment of assassins, right? So you need to watch yourself. So this is titled General Stone Tiger, and I'm sure Nichiren will take the opportunity to cull from different sutra examples for that relate to what Shijo Kingo is going through here, the ups and downs of his dedication to the Lotus Sutra, in the form of actual proof in the behavior of the people around him and in his environment, and not to take for granted that just because he's sort of won this round of negative influences that he should not be all the more alert, right? So here we go. On the 22nd of this month I received all that you sent me from Shinano, 3,000 coins, a sack of polished rice, 50 slabs of rice cake, 1 large and 1 small bamboo container of sake, 5 strings of dried persimmons, and 10 pomegranates, as well as the list of items you enclosed with these offerings. No doubt some medications to help alleviate his dysentery, right? A sovereign is supported by the people, and they in turn live under his protection. Clothes protect us from a change of temperature, and food sustains us, just as oil keeps a fire burning and water enables fish to live. Birds nest high in the trees in fear that human beings will harm them, but they come down to feed and are caught in snares. Fish dwelling in the depths of water fear that it is too shallow and dig holes in it to hide. Yet, lured by bait, they take the hook. So you see the setup already, right? No treasure possessed by human beings is more precious than food and drink, clothing and medicine. I'm not as healthy as others, and in addition, I dwell in this remote mountain forest. This year was especially difficult, with widespread epidemics and famine in spring and summer, which worsened in autumn and winter. My sickness grew worse again, too. But you gave me various medicines and a quilted robe. Thanks to your remedies, I improved steadily. I have now recovered and feel much better than before. The treatise on the stages of yoga practice by Bodhisattva Maitreya and the treatise on the great perfection of wisdom by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna both state that if one's illness is caused by fixed karma, even excellent medicine will turn to poison, but that if one believes in the Lotus Sutra, poison will change into medicine. And again, I would replace the word believes with has confidence in the Lotus Sutra, because this is about practice. It isn't about worship or idle appreciation. It's about an active practice of dedication. So that's a confidence measure in the Lotus Sutra. Although unworthy, I propagate the Lotus Sutra. There's that humble reference to himself as just another frail human being, right? Hence, heavenly devil, negative influences, have competed to deprive me of food. Understanding this, I have no complaint, but I believe that I survived this time only because Shakyamuni Buddha took possession of your body to help me. So again, Buddhism works in this personizing of cosmic forces, right? The personage of Shakyamuni Buddha, in other words, Buddhahood, my efforts in spreading Buddhahood, the most efficacious, ultimate method of practicing Buddhism, has brought with it this kind of support as a sort of a payback, if you will, from the energy I'm putting out. It comes back and supports me, right? Everything in Buddhism is rather circular in that fashion. So to say that Shakyamuni Buddha took possession of Shijo Kingo's body in order for Shijo Kingo to then supply medications and food to Nichiren, that's a samsaric look at what is a non-samsaric energy. That positive energy that Nichiren is pushing into his world, into Japan, is a feedback loop that in his environment, which as we know as Buddhists is the same thing, self and environment are one. And this is how they are one, by putting out the positive energy, that energy comes back to you as support. And in this case, it's illustrated through the personages of Shakyamuni Buddha, in other words, Buddha-ness, enlivening and inspiring help from Shijo Kingo, who is in Nichiren's immediate circle of influence, to come back and support him, knowingly or unknowingly. It doesn't matter. That's a samsaric preoccupation. This is the cosmic force of life supporting itself, or not. This is when I talk about life affirming rather than life unaffirming. I'm talking about this force, this life force, this force of living bioelectric energy, right? So much for that. I was extremely concerned about your journey home last time, and I am overjoyed to hear that you have arrived safely in Kamakura. Such was my anxiety that I asked everyone who came here from Kamakura about you. One said that he had met you at Yumoto, another that he had encountered you farther on at Kozu, and when a third told me that he had seen you in Kamakura, I felt greatly relieved. From now on, you must not come to visit me in person unless absolutely necessary. When you have something urgent to tell me, send a messenger. Indeed, I was deeply worried about your last trip. An enemy will try to make you forget the danger so that he can attack. If you should have to travel, do not begrudge the cost of a horse. Make sure that you ride a good horse. Bring along your best men to defend you against a surprise attack, and ride a horse that can easily carry you in your armor. So Nichiren is really worried about Shijo Kingo because, as we already know, he's a samurai and he's very talented, but he's a bit arrogant and hot-tempered. And so he may take risks that are not altogether wise. And so Nichiren is really pleading because Shijo Kingo is such a great benefit to not only him, but everybody in his surroundings, even though they may not know it or begrudge it. He's very concerned about his safety. In the 8th volume of the Great Concentration and Insight, and in the 8th volume of the annotations on Great Concentration and Insight, it says, "The stronger one's resolve, the greater the protection of the deities. This means that the protection of the deities depends on the strength of one's resolute mind and conviction. The Lotus Sutra is a fine sword, but its might depends on the one who wields it." Okay. Among those who propagate this sutra in the latter day of the law, who compares with Shariputra, Mahakashyapa, perceiver of the world's sounds, wonderful sound, Manjushri, and medicine king. All great scholars, right? Persons of the two vehicles, such as Shariputra, learning and realization, those worlds, had destroyed all the illusions of thought and desire, but thus freeing themselves from the 6 paths, the 6 lower worlds, right? Bodhisattvas, but I shouldn't say it that way because all of the worlds contain all of the others. So you can see the same labeling here in the 6 lower worlds, hell, hunger, animality, so on. But they had, where this says freeing themselves from the 6 paths, what it's really saying is living in the worlds of learning and realization. That's their home base. They sometimes might experience lower life conditions, but they always come back to learning and realization. They are not held by the lower worlds, the lower paths. And this is a Hinayana kind of a teaching. It's not full Mahayana. And it's even early Mahayana to a great degree. Bodhisattvas such as perceiver of the world's sounds had eradicated 41 of the 42 levels of ignorance and were like the moon on the 14th night before it reaches fullness. Again, these are from earlier sutra, right? But they're part of the teaching. So Nichiren's utilizing something that's going to be common amongst all of Shijo Kingo's fellow samurai and his Lord Emma. So he's referring very much to the environment Shijo Kingo lives in. This is why he's bringing these up, right? Nevertheless, Shakyamuni Buddha refused to entrust the mission of propagation to any of these people and gave it instead to the bodhisattvas of the earth. So he's distinguishing the value of the Lotus Sutra here as being far and away more important than what all these others are practicing. Do you see what he's doing? Thus, these bodhisattvas are the ones who had thoroughly forged their resolve. The mighty warrior General Li Kuang, whose mother had been devoured by a tiger, shot an arrow at the stone he believed was the tiger. The arrow penetrated the stone all the way up to its feathers, but once he realized it was only a stone, he was unable to pierce it again. So this is the power of resolute mind, right? This is a common theme throughout martial arts, for instance. When I used to teach my students how to break boards, I would teach them how to move the chi and create jin, to focus, to collect, focus, and direct the bioelectric energy and to release it into what they were striking so that they would protect and not hurt their foot, hand, whatever, elbow, and that energy would pass through that point in focused concentration and create jin, energy that would break through anything without damaging the self. So this is a reference of that kind of thinking in the day of martial arts, right? Like shooting an arrow with such resolve to kill this beast, only to find out that it was a rock, and then you could shoot at it all day and the arrows would just bounce off of it. It was the power of that chi energy, that jin, that penetrated the rock, not the arrow. Later, he came to be known as General Stone Tiger. This story applies to you, Shijo Kingo. Though enemies lurk in wait for you, your resolute mind and conviction in the Lotus Sutra has forestalled great dangers before they could begin. So you're being protected by your resolve, but don't forget that that's what it is, because if you take that for granted, you are very vulnerable. Realizing this, you must strengthen your resolve more than ever. It is important to say all I want. It is impossible to say all I want to say in one letter. With my deep respect, Nichiren. So this is another thank you for having helped him through a very dire period of health problems. It's no fun if you've ever had any kind of dysentery or continuous diarrhea. It's very life-threatening. It dehydrates you and it can cause all kinds of other things, and your body will eventually just shut down. So whatever medicaments, including those pomegranates and things that he sent to Nichiren, were very helpful in getting rid of whatever was ailing him and steadying his constitution. But he's also realizing, you know, Shijo Kingo did this in person, which is kind of rare. He didn't send a retinue out, which is a word I was trying to remember earlier, retinue. So he's saying, look, I deeply appreciate what you've done for me, and in recognition of what you've done with Lord Emma and now your newfound wealth, don't take for granted how important this is in your resolve, and the fact that it's occurred because of your resolve. You should be all the more careful, because this makes quite a statement to those who would be your enemies, your attackers from within. Be smart. Don't take this for granted. It's not like a shield you can just hold up. It may give way. In the same way that with the proper resolve, which you need to redouble now in the Lotus Sutra, just like shooting a stone with an arrow, your resolve can achieve great protection for you. But if you falter, that arrow won't pierce the stone. And your protection, likewise, won't be as formidable as you expect it to be. So do not take that for granted. Keep working diligently on your Buddhahood, right? And that's a message for all of us, isn't it? We all pulse. We wane in our practice. Then when something happens and, we come right back to it. we forget how much we need to do Gangyo, to chant, to spend time with our mandala of Gohanzan, our internal Gohanzan, enlivening it, and protecting it. It's precious. It's the source of life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks you so much for being with me. This wasn't a very long one today, was it? No, this is a really short one. But we read an entire Gosho. And it's an interesting development in the saga of Shijo Kingo and Nichiren's life as well. But we can all take something from it. So if you saw something in here I haven't mentioned and it personally relates to you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to read about it. And all the other YouTuber stuff about, you know, like and subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I'm just overjoyed that you're practicing Buddhism. And if I can strengthen that practice or inspire it in any way, you make my practice even more rewarding. So thank you for that. And I'll see you in the next one. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Bye.